Hello and welcome to News Center. I'm Parikshit Luthra. United States President Donald Trump has reignited his tariff war even as he announced a 3-week extension to negotiate trade deals. Trump sent letters to leaders of 14 nations, starting with the staunch U.S. allies Japan and South Korea, proposing a 25% tariff. This is similar to the high duties that were proposed by him on the 2nd of April. Malaysia, South Africa, Indonesia and Thailand also face higher tariffs. Trump said, and I quote, "If you want to play ball, this is how we play ball," end of quote. So countries have seen their tariff rise from what was announced in April. Bangladesh faces a 37% tariff compared to 35% in April. Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos are also facing higher tariffs. The new rates will apply from August, and President Trump has left room for negotiations, saying the tariff letters are more or less a final offer from the US. So where does all this leave India? Well, President Trump says the deal with India is close, and sources tell CNBC-TV18 that India has made a decent offer. The White House, we learn, is now assessing the proposal and the market access gains that American companies will get. We learned that India's proposals cover almost $150 to $200 billion worth of goods trade between the two nations. India is also unlikely to make any further concession at this stage, and there is going to be no compromise on red lines when it comes to wheat, rice, maize, dairy products and GM crops. India exported engineering goods worth over $17 billion to the US in FY24, along with electronic goods worth nearly $10 billion and petroleum worth $6 billion. Meanwhile, US exported mineral fuels and oils worth nearly $13 billion to India, along with precious stones worth over $5 billion and electrical machinery worth $2.4 billion. I caught up with Lawrence Loh, Professor of Strategy and Policy at the National University of Singapore, to understand how Trump's latest tariff salvo may impact major Asian economies. Here's that conversation.
I think many countries in Asia, East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, they are already caught in the bind now. They actually have very little options left. What Trump has given up, some almost like an ultimatum, initially 14 countries, and these countries will have to come to the bargaining table and strike a deal. So in other words, it's almost like take it or leave it, and many countries will have to just play by the game.
Right. In the short run, how do you think supply chains and exports from these nations are going to be impacted?
Oh, definitely, because the tariff basically just add certain costs for, say, the U.S. consumers. So definitely with higher prices that is going into the big U.S. market, suppliers from all parts of Asia will feel the pinch. In fact, it's like an artificially added price to some of their goods that go in, and I think this will make it very difficult for many of the companies to continue to operate in such a setting.
Right. I would also like to ask you about, does India now come into a more advantageous situation, considering that key Asian economies such as Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Myanmar, if they are going to have higher tariffs, including Thailand and Vietnam, does importing from India become cheaper?
Definitely. I mean, but of course, India is still at this point in time in the stage of negotiation. What is on the table is maybe about 26% tariff. This will have to be effective if any deal is not made by the 1st of August. So that 26% is actually quite high, almost comparable to the current 25% by Japan. China is still in the stage of negotiation as well, together with India. And China may actually strike a deal maybe ranging from 30% to 50%. So in other words, the advantage that India may have if no deal is being struck with the US, the advantages of India will not be basically there.
Right. We are hearing possibly that a deal with India could be signed in the next couple of days. That indeed would be important. But do you feel that the current tariff situation that Donald Trump has imposed, will this bring ASEAN countries closer together? Who will be the winner in these tariff wars?
I think if you look at the 10 ASEAN countries, all of them differ in terms of their trade profiles, in particularly the balances with the US. For example, Vietnam will have the highest surplus with the US. On the contrary, Singapore is one that actually in itself has a deficit with the US. So in other words, the US actually have a surplus with a country like Singapore. So in other words, for ASEAN countries, it's very difficult to have a coordinated approach. A common approach is practically almost impossible because each of the country is so diverse in terms of the trade, and also some of the countries will differ in terms of their geopolitical interests. So you can see a country like Vietnam is already striking a deal. Some of the countries are still having high tariffs, so they really have to play ball. Countries like Indonesia, countries like Malaysia, or even Thailand, despite the uncertainty, they have to put their act together.
Right. Do you expect China to be the gainer as a result of these tariffs?
And then nobody can gain whenever there's tariff. It's a lose-lose game. So what is trying to China is trying to do is actually minimize the damage for itself. And right now, one of the key challenge that it faces is actually transshipment. In other words, what the US is trying to do is to prevent, say, Chinese goods from being rebranded and transshipped through another country such as Vietnam. And I think that the US is quite particular about closing this option as well.